Well, you use this word truth a lot, this capital T truth word. But in your book of poetry, you have a line, the words have never been friends with the truth.
Yes, so Alan Watts goes on used to, he passed away now, but he used to go on a riff a lot about how words are symbols of truth and numbers are the same thing. So if I say the word book, it doesn't actually mean the thing that I have in my hand. It's a symbol for that thing. And the same is true of money, right? Money is not wealth. Money is a symbol of wealth. Or Ram Dass has a nice quote that I like. He says, all your words are just fingers pointing at the moon. They are not the moon. Right? So we're using the poetry, we're using the art, we're using the song as a means to describe something ineffable. And some people can get the better you are at your art, the closer you can get to that thing that you're trying to describe. So what is that thing? That's the golden question.
I took a pill in Ibiza to show Avicii I was cool. And when I finally got sober, felt 10 years older, but fuck it, it was something to do. I'm living out in LA. I drive a sports car just to prove I'm a real big baller, cause I made $1 million and I spend it on girls and shoes. But you don't wanna be high like me, never really knowing why like me. You don't ever wanna step off that roller coaster and be all alone.
Hi, I'm Elia Einhorn. Welcome to the Talkhouse Music Podcast. Here at the Talkhouse, we pair notable musicians for thoughtful, unmoderated conversations and release new talks each week. Regular listeners will have caught recent episodes like Questlove in conversation with Slater Kinney and Portlandia's Carrie Brownstein, or Jerobi from A Tribe Called Quest talking with producer Starrita about the late, great Fife Dog. Check out these and all of our past episodes, and subscribe to get new ones on Stitcher or iTunes. Today's guests are Mike Posner and Taraka Larson of Prince Rama. Mike Posner is a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter whose mega hit I Took a Pill in Ibiza has been streamed over 1 billion times. He's worked with artists like Pharrell, Nick Jonas, Snoop Dogg, and Avicii, and co-wrote Justin Bieber's triple platinum Boyfriend and Maroon 5's 6 times platinum Sugar. His group Mansions drops their debut album March 24th, and last week Posner released a book of poetry titled Teardrops and Balloons. Taraka Larson fronts the beloved psych pop group Prince Rama and is a pop music theorist. A multimedia artist whose work has been shown at the Whitney and the Museum of Modern Art's PS1, she's also published a number of artistic manifestos, designed a clothing line, and lectured on pop music at New York University and Melbourne College in Australia. Larson's philosophy and music are inextricably entwined. Prince Rama's fantastic 2016 album Extreme Now was obsessed with the idea that pop music was the frontier of really living. Oh, and the band also recently appeared as themselves in the James Franco Lifetime movie High School Lover, at Franco's personal request. We thought it would make for a great conversation to pair this pop theorist with one of pop's biggest current writers, and it was. In a talk that was part theory discussion, part psychoanalysis, the two discussed where truth is to be found in the inherent artifice of art, the temptation to glorify one's suffering in one's work, how you know when you've created good art and when you haven't, and much more. Check it out.
Sad songs, sad songs.
I really enjoyed reading your book of poetry.
Thank you for taking the time to do so.
Totally. So, okay, your poem NYC, you're in NYC right now, yeah?
Correct.
Yeah, NYC memory. There's like a phrase in there that really jumped out at me. This reference to a blanket of silence. I laid a blanket of silence over the noise.
Yeah.
It was all beautiful. It was all perfect. It was all exactly what it was. A curtain in front of the stage, pretending to be the show. I need some snaps in the background here. Come on.
I'll give you one for myself, right?
Thank you. I love this so much. I thought instead of asking you like a bunch of dumb questions right off the bat and trying to get you to, fill the silence with more words and try to explain these words you already filled up blank space on paper with, I thought it'd be more interesting to lay a blanket of silence over the noise and just sit in this blanket with you for the next, 15 minutes.
So we're just going to go blank? Breathe?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could just, go blank for like 15 minutes. How do you feel about that?
Let's do it.
I feel like we got to get to that place where it's a little uncomfortable,
Yeah, because on the other side of that is something beautiful.
Exactly. Ready and break. Oh, awful sound to break the silence. Okay, it's done.
I've had so many meditations ended by iPhone timers that they've become beautiful sounds to me.
It becomes part of the meditation.
Yeah.
What do you think about when you meditate?
I've been meditating daily for 3 or 4 years, and I've never sat and had no thoughts ever. There's a level of, I call it helicopter mic. When I feel connected or aligned, there's one part of me that's on this plane that's holding this microphone and talking to you and carrying on this conversation, and then there's another that's sort of just floating above, watching me do the whole thing. And watching it happen, and that, call it helicopter mic or whatever, and like that. Yeah, that part has no emotion or opinion of what's going on. It's just there, and so whatever mischief Mike down here gets into, there's one part of me on a plane that doesn't really care, and it, it's all gonna work out. It's just another. Oh, there he goes again.
Do you think that's who writes your poetry?
It's tough to say because it seems to, whenever I feel inspired, it does feel like I'm not doing it, but it is coming through the mic on this plane, right? So
right.
There is someone like typing it into the phone or writing it in the notebook. But I do, when I feel I'm doing a good job, and I've heard this sentiment echoed by many artists, it does feel like it's that I'm not doing it.
Right. So do you feel like you consider yourself more of a poet or more of a secretary?
Yeah, or what do they call in the courtroom? A stenographer?
Right, right. I know stenographer is like less sexy than a poet and stuff, but...
You're right. I think probably the best artists are stenographers. It's like it begs the question: where does a thought come from? Do you think your thoughts, or are they given to you? Do they come from someplace else? So if you believe that you're the author of your thought, but when have you ever sat back and designed, the thought that you're going to have next? So I am of the school that, the thoughts come from someplace else, whether that be intuition or God or one's heart, whatever word you'd like to use. I think they come from someplace else. And yeah, I'm sort of taking note of them and then recording them and then sharing them with someone else. And there's actually a poem in the book where I address this, and it's a short one. So I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just
go for it.
I'll jump into it. It says, I went from negative to positive. Biggie said that. I sold my cleverness and bought bewilderment. Rumi said that. I don't know why God whispers these melodies in my ear, but of course I repeat them to you.
I really like that last line a lot.
Thank you.
It makes me think, like, at what point does a thought become a poem versus, say, a song?
There's something intrinsic about when I start putting it down that I know right from the beginning. And on rare occasions, there's some overlap. I may steal a line from a poem, or I may take a full poem and try to put it to music. But for the most part, for me, a poem has less form than a song. There's more conventions that I'm dealing with in a song, whether they be melody or rhyme. Where a poem, I feel, I actually get closer to capital T truth, because you can kind of just say it and not worry. For me, I'm not worrying about fitting it into the melody, or deleting or adding syllables to make it match, make the second verse.
It's an awkward rhyme, it doesn't flow.
Right. I would say that's the difference.
Well, you use this word truth a lot, this capital T truth word. But in your book of poetry, you have a line, the words have never been friends with the truth.
Yes, so Alan Watts goes on used to, he passed away now, but he used to go on a riff a lot about how words are symbols of truth and numbers are the same thing. So if I say the word book, it doesn't actually mean the thing that I have in my hand. It's a symbol for that thing. And the same is true of money, right? Money is not wealth. Money is a symbol of wealth. Or Ram Dass has a nice quote that I like. He says, all your words are just fingers pointing at the moon. They are not the moon. Right? So we're using the poetry, we're using the art, we're using the song as a means to describe something ineffable. And some people can get the better you are at your art, the closer you can get to that thing that you're trying to describe. So what is that thing? That's the golden question.
Right, and it's funny you use the word art too, because art is, when you really break it down, art is an illusion. It's trickery. It's all about creating an illusion of meaning. And so it's funny because a lot of people really pair art with this idea of seeking truth when it's sort of at odds with it. But I don't know. It's up for interpretation. It's like, is it at odds with it? Is there such thing as truth, or is like the illusion kind of part of it,
Right. Yeah. I can certainly see both sides of that argument. So it's funny. I'll assume that for the sake of the discussion, I'll assume your opposition, which is kind of the stance I've taken in my book, in that, or in the point I just made, in that there is some truth, and the art is pointing towards it, helping the viewer get closer to it, right? So an example I would use is a painter that paints a picture of a piece of fruit, right? They are helping one see the divinity in the mundane. So in our normal life, we see pieces of fruit all the time and we don't really care because they're just pieces of fruit. But then when you see on a wall in a museum somewhere, this art depicted so beautifully, and you're able to see what the artist saw in the fruit, which is a piece of God, a piece of the divine, truth. That is an argument or a description I've used of my job. And maybe that's just because I want to feel important. but I can certainly see the other side, which is maybe there is no capital T truth. It's a little scarier, right? Or,
Right.
there is only illusion, and actually the painting and the fruit are all part of that. And the person thinking that they're getting closer to the truth is actually part of the illusion as well. So I don't know which one is right. I don't have proof for either one.
Well, luckily you're not doing any sort of like scientific method or something. You don't have to like prove the truth somehow and experiment and repeat it and whatever. So that's the nice thing about poetry is, you could talk about the truth and I wonder, it's like when I think about art and kind of what you're saying, the first image that sort of comes to my mind is I don't know if you've seen this James Turrell piece that's in New York over at PS1. Oh man, if you have like a free moment, you should really try to go over there. I feel like it's kind of touching on what you're saying. But basically on the top floor of the museum, you go in this room and there's just a hole cut in the ceiling, but a perfectly cut square.
Wow.
I mean, it's so perfect, you don't even see the edges. And you go in there and you can just sit and look at the sky. And I mean, you can just sit and look at the sky anytime. I mean, I could look up at the sky right now, but for some reason, being in that room and seeing the sky framed in such a precise and beautiful, elegant way, it draws attention to this beauty, that the sky has. And it's because it's kind of what you're talking about. It's like someone is pointing this finger. Someone drew this square. Someone made this hole, this frame.
Yeah.
And I feel like that maybe I'm like going out on a limb here, but I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about with words. Words are like kind of like cutting a hole in the ceiling. They're like creating this sort of window.
Yeah, if you use them the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever had the experience of words used in the wrong way? Like you're kind of like writing things about stuff and then it just completely muddles it over.
Yeah, I would say probably 99% of the things that come out of my mouth is that. I mean, probably like, that's been the downfall of all my relationships, my romantic relationship, and like trying to say one thing and I can't. When I'm speaking, I don't think I'm very good at speaking. Maybe that's why
I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's why I need to write songs because I can get closer to what I'm really trying to say. I can take my time to make a mistake. But the amount of times I really angered my ex with some like poor phrasing of what, or trying to say something that was really sweet or a compliment that comes out as an insult.
Totally wrong.
Yeah, I'm the king of that.
Yeah. No, aren't we all? I mean, seriously. I feel like I don't know, but it's interesting though because it's like you have these different things included in your book that aren't just poems you write. I really like the inclusion of like, these screenshots from these sort of like desperate late night texts or something.
Yeah.
But what's cool about this, or even, like hate tweets and stuff, it's like, is this considered part of this realm? It's like of truth, of poetry, and how do you kind of discern what becomes a part of that, that frame that, cuts out and looks at the sky? Or that fruit.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about this a lot the last few days. And when I feel most aligned, connected, or, when I've had a few transcendent moments in my life, almost I would say like mystical moments, or probably a word that would turn a lot of people off, like spiritual moments.
Right.
In those moments, it's all art. It's all beautiful. It's all perfect. There's no there's no gem that's more beautiful than a rock. And so for me right now where I'm sitting, that's sort of like the highest I've ever gone. Whereas it's all perfect. It's all beautiful. It's all art.
Right.
There is no line. The majority of my life, and definitely this book, were not written from that place of consciousness, because I'm struggling always to get back to that place of consciousness. I'm struggling always to remember what I'm forgetting.
Right.
By not being there. So yeah, in this book we play a little with those lines, but I guess that's my answer. That from the highest point, the highest I've been, there is no line.
Yeah, this is interesting to hear, because it's kind of like, so where does the poem originate? Where do these thoughts originate? Where does this, truth originate? And it seems like at the beginning of our conversation, it was kind of like, it's everywhere, it's outside you. But then it kind of seems like what you're saying now is it's kind of more of this internal framing, because it's all happening. But what makes it, what makes the difference between, the sun just shining normally and you're just like, oh, I'm so hungover, like, oh, it stopped shining too bright, and you being like, the sun, and what does its rays mean, and the beauty, it's this internal space, it seems like, that you're talking about.
The difference is in you or me, and that's one of the, I hesitate to call it a struggle, but it feels like a struggle sometimes, is how do I stay in the second mode you described, right? And as I live more and I take note, there's much more than, it's not binary, right? There's a lot of gray areas in between the transcendent moment and the hangover moment. There's maybe infinite modes of being and states of mind one can be in. And so I don't know if you're like me, I sort of beat myself up when I'm in a hangover mode, or just a rainy day mode. And I'm always trying to figure out how to stay high. Well, maybe the point is not to stay high. Maybe those moody moments are the part of the ceiling around that open square, of the sky.
I mean, it seems like all the great poets always have these like sort of really tragic lives of suffering, and like artists, and you kind of wonder sometimes, like, do they just bring this on themselves to write better poetry? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's a very tempting rabbit hole to go down, to glorify one's own suffering.
And there is, like, I feel like in your poems there is this sort of like awareness of these moments where you don't feel so transcendent, but that's incorporated into the body of poetry. So do you feel like maybe the struggle can be alleviated by being aware even in these states where, you're just kind of alone at your house, or, in the back of an Uber or whatever, and just not totally feeling with it, but then feeling with yourself not feeling with it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Well, it's funny because then when you finish something, that a piece is finished, right? Whether that be a song or a poem or, whatever you're working on. And you have an intuitive feeling that it doesn't suck. There's a little joy that comes out of that, right? There's a little hit. So you may be in this period of sadness or gloominess, and then you write a poem from that spot, and you feel good that you wrote a good poem, and it sort of gives you a little hit of happiness and takes you out of that gloom. So there's a little silver lining to that, I think.
What when do you know that you've hit that, though? Like, when do you know something's good? Like, when do you know that your poem doesn't suck?
You just know. If you're trying to rationalize anything. I find this, with music or poetry. If I'm thinking of reasons why it's good, it's not good. Because when it's good, you just know. You just know.
It's almost like the less words you have to use to justify it.
Yeah, there should be no justifying going on. And when I'm justifying, I justify a lot, but it's always an indication that this thing is not, it's not quite there.
You should shut the fuck up right now and let me be me. Let me be. Shut the fuck up right now, let me do my thing. People talk too much shit in my face, on my back, on the phone. Ain't been famous for a while, but I'm still up in my zone. And I don't usually smoke, but I'm high on sativa. It's my word in my tea, I smell like heaven, I'm a diva. Banging the lead so loud on my speaker that I cannot hear you, no.
Have you ever gone skydiving?
Twice, yeah.
And I don't know if this is your experience, but when I went skydiving, they remind you about 1,000 times that you could die. And they make you sign papers with big bold writing that say this may result in death. And then you watch a video where someone says you may die, etc. And so the coolest thing about skydiving for me was having to really think about, do I have any loose ends I need to tie up? Because I might die right now. They keep telling me I might die. So
I'm signing my life away right here, right now.
Yeah. So for me, it was always like sometimes I have these songs that are in my voice notes that I know are really good that I haven't recorded, and it felt off to me to for the world for that not to be available to other people.
Are you afraid of dying?
I think in some ways that desire to have all the music recorded and available is a form of fear of death, right? Because if my body's gonna die, at least my name and my art is still here. So in one respect, I guess I have to revise my answer because there's a fear of not existing anymore, right? And that's an ego fear, and I think it makes me think of the two mics that we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, where Helicopter Mike knows it doesn't really matter, dude, if there's that song left on your iPhone. Like, who cares?
Right.
Whose life is it really going to change? And if it doesn't change somebody's life, does that matter? And then there's Mike holding the microphone that's like, I want everyone to like me and remember the name Mike Posner as really awesome and a great poet and great artist.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the duality of like, am I making this music for me or am I making it for other people? Am I making it for me to exist, in a more purposeful way, or am I helping to give other people this purpose?
For me, it's definitely both. I wish I could say, and I've actually said many times in the past that, I'm doing this just for me. I'm doing it because I feel it. But the reality is, I love to be loved. I love to be loved. And
who doesn't, man?
Yeah, it feels good to be loved. And I think it comes from a feeling that a lot of people listening, if not everyone listening, will identify with, is a overarching, or maybe not an overarching, an underlying feeling of unworthiness, right? Like, why are we doing what we're doing? Feel we have to earn our existence. We feel we don't deserve to be here in some way. And so we're going to justify the existence of our lives by accomplishing something. And so I wish I was free of that, but I'm not. I'm so not. I'm so not. And so
totally. Well, that's why we're still here. That's why you're not dead.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that's the point. Yeah, the point of my life is to go through that.
But do you feel like with your songs and with your poems, with this idea of, like what you're talking about, like, wanting to be loved. Is there this return back? Like, do you feel like you're also like, this is your way of sharing love with people, is like through your poetry and through your songs? Or do you feel like it's more self-reflexive?
It's both. I think maybe most people, they see and have an exchange of love every day, with their family members. I live alone. I'm sort of a hermit, maybe for months on end while I make this stuff. And then I'll go on tour, right? And then there's just constant love giving and getting for a series of months. And then I go home and I'm just alone, And
Right.
so I think it evens out in the end. But for me, it's a bigger swing. It's a taller roller coaster.
Yeah, totally. But when you're in that space by yourself, do you feel that love while you're making things? Or is it kind of more of like the making things becomes a bridge to sort of feel that love?
In the past, I've always called the love I get back a B product, of doing the stuff. And it's a very nice B product. But I think, when I have the adoration of others in the forefront of my mind, that has always gotten in the way of me doing anything worthwhile. But I think it's back there. I think it's in there running in the background. As I can you make stenograph a verb as I stenograph?
You're the poet, man. Go for it.
As I write, as I copy down, these thoughts. There's a little thing in the background going, yeah, keep going because you'll receive adoration later for this. But
so is adoration the ultimate goal, or is it the transcendence of the clinging to the adoration?
I'm confused by the second option.
Oh, is like adoration the goal, or is transcendence from this feeling of adoration? Because it seems like from what you're saying, you don't feel like that's necessarily the whole truth.
I would say in my life, number 2 is undoubtedly the goal, transcendence. And it's so funny, I Googled my name. What does Michael mean? Michael is a question. And it means, who is God? Question mark.
Wow.
And I asked my mom and my father, did you know that? They go, no. Just named we looked up in a book, it was the most popular name. And we wanted to give you a name you wouldn't get made fun of, type of.
That's hilarious.
But thus far in my 29 years, it's been the theme of my life. It's this searching, who is God? And at times it feels like flailing, but that's my goal in life, as to why I'm doing music, why I'm doing poetry. I think,
who is God?
I think there is some want and need of adoration wrapped up in that. I like being an entertainer, a poet, a singer-songwriter, because the attention feels good. I want people to notice me. But the overarching goal, now I can go to overarching. The overarching goal of my life is to become free of that desire, to not have clinging, to not feel the need to be noticed and adored by others in order to feel good. tell me about the movie you're a part of.
Well, it was kind of ridiculous. I don't know. It's just like this sort of high school slasher film, like a Lifetime movie.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were like James Franco's on-screen daughter's like favorite band. So in this alternate universe that is the movie High School Lover, Prince Rama's like the really cool band teenagers listened to and got posters on their walls. So it's pretty funny.
Dope.
Yeah, so we're just kind of like the band in the movie. And yeah, there's just like this scene where she's like kind of grounded and she's not really allowed to do anything, but she's like, no, but Dad, I got tickets to see Prince Rama 3 months ago. So he's like, well, you can only go if I come with you. So, you know, James Franco's like escorting his daughter. And it's funny because, I mean, I don't know. James Franco, I know he's getting older, but he doesn't look that old. Seems like he could still be like her like weird older boyfriend or something. You know, it's like a little weird. But anyways, I don't know. So like the whole time we're shooting, I mean, it's like 6 a.m. But you know, we're supposed to pretend like, oh, you know, it's like midnight, Friday night at the club, really hopping.
That's acting, baby.
I know, exactly. It's weird, man. Mornings are very difficult for me, but yeah, so we're just kind of like, you know, getting down and James Franco's just like kind of like doing all these awkward dad dance moves and stuff. And but I don't really know him, but I kept trying to like make eyes at him and like make him laugh and like break him out of his character. And he finally came up to me afterwards. He's like, "Stop trying to make me laugh. I have to be like Dad."
Like, I kept trying to ruin this movie. You know,
right?
It got like $80 million like, set go up. You know, all these people.
I know. But yeah, it was pretty funny. He was pretty cool about the whole thing, but. Yeah, it was a weird experience. It's strange too because you're acting, but you're acting yourself.
Right.
It's kind of meta, you know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing that more than I'd like to admit.
Right.
Yeah, acting myself.
You're the band. You're like you're everyone's on-screen teenage daughter's favorite band in the movie of their life.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks. You too. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. Can we have another minute of silence?
Absolutely.
To end?
Yeah, I would love that.
I'll take that with me. And then I'm going to master Mansion's album.
Oh, yeah? Oh, that's great. So that's good. You need a good 2 minutes of silence to, like, get your head clear.
I concur.
Mastering is like, yeah... You need to listen to a lot of stuff in a space.
It's mostly done. It's just one song that I think there should be like another second of silence in between track 10 and track 11. Something no one
Maybe
else...
Maybe 2 minutes of silence.
Yeah, no one else cares about. Yeah. Okay, let's do
2 minutes before the bass drop. Okay, all right, sorry.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Elia Einhorn, and you've been listening to Taraka, Larson, and Mike Posner on the Talkhouse Music Podcast. Subscribe on Stitcher or iTunes for upcoming talks like Mastodon's Bill Kelleher and Troy Sanders with Jesse Leach of Killswitch Engage. If you like the Talkhouse Music Podcast, rate us on iTunes so others can discover our talks. Today's episode is recorded and mixed by Mark Yoshizumi. Till next time.
Oh, the iPhone timer.
There it is. It's so gorgeous.
There it is.